The National Electrical Code, or NEC, defines a wet location as a location exposed to weather conditions that include rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Electrical equipment used in wet locations must be specifically designed to withstand moisture and prevent electric shock. Standard ceiling fans are not rated for wet locations and can be dangerous if used in these areas. Wiring in damp or wet locations must be protected from moisture. Non-metallic cable, or NMC, is not rated for outdoor use and can deteriorate in damp environments, creating a safety hazard. When communicating these concepts, it's crucial to emphasize that using unrated equipment or exposed wiring in wet locations poses a serious safety risk. These risks include electric shock, fire, and property damage. Explain that the National Electrical Code, or NEC, is a safety standard that requires proper installation and use of electrical equipment. Describe the NEC requirement for wet location rated ceiling fans. Provide examples of specific models that meet this requirement. Suggest using weatherproof conduit or underground feeder or off cable to protect the wiring from moisture. If the port cannot be enclosed, consider installing a wet-rated outdoor fan with a waterproof motor. Highlight the potential consequences of ignoring the NEC, such as fines from electrical inspectors, increased insurance premiums, and safety hazards. The NEC mandates certain practices for electrical installations in various locations, including those exposed to the elements. When dealing with ceiling fans and wiring in damp or wet locations, several key aspects of the code must be considered to ensure safety and compliance. Let's delve into the specifics of selecting appropriate equipment and installation methods. Firstly, it's important to differentiate between the types of locations as defined by the NEC. A damp location is defined as an area protected from weather but subject to moderate degrees of moisture, such as some basements, barns, and covered porches. A wet location, on the other hand, is exposed to saturation with water or other liquids such as vehicle washing areas and unprotected locations exposed to weather. Given the porch setting without walls, it clearly falls under the wet location category, especially since it's exposed to rain and other weather elements. Secondly, standard ceiling fans are designed for indoor, dry locations. These fans lack the necessary protection against moisture and water ingress. Using a standard ceiling fan in a wet location can lead to electrical shock, corrosion of the fan's components, and premature failure. The NEC requires that any electrical equipment installed in a wet location be specifically listed and labeled for that purpose. These wet location rated ceiling fans are constructed with sealed motors, corrosion-resistant materials, and other features to withstand exposure to moisture and direct water contact. Thirdly, wiring methods are also crucial. The NEC specifies that wiring in wet or damp locations must be suitable for the environment. Non-metallic cable, or NMC, which is commonly used for interior wiring, is not suitable for direct exposure to weather. NMC is not designed to withstand prolonged exposure to moisture, ultraviolet radiation, and temperature fluctuations, all of which can cause the cable's jacket to degrade, leading to insulation failure and potential electrical hazards. Fourthly, acceptable wiring methods for wet locations include firstly, the use of underground feeder cable, or UF cable, which is designed for direct burial and exposure to weather. UF cable has a sunlight-resistant jacket and is suitable for wet locations. Secondly, rigid metal conduit, or RMC, or intermediate metal conduit, or IMC, with appropriate fittings. These conduits provide excellent physical protection and can be used in wet locations, provided that all fittings are listed for wet locations to prevent water from entering the conduit system. Thirdly, liquid-tight flexible metal conduit, or LFMC, or liquid-tight flexible non-metallic conduit, or LFNC, can be used in short runs for connecting to equipment, provided that they are listed for wet locations. Fifthly, when explaining this to homeowners who may not be familiar with the NEC, it's essential to use clear and simple language. Avoid technical jargon and focus on the safety implications. Firstly, emphasize the risk of electric shock if water comes into contact with electrical components that are not designed for wet locations. Secondly, explain that using the wrong type of equipment or wiring can lead to premature failure and costly repairs. Thirdly, highlight the potential for fire if the wiring deteriorates and causes a short circuit. Sixthly, to address the exposed NMC wiring, several solutions can be implemented. Firstly, the NMC wiring can be replaced with an appropriate wiring method such as UF cable or conduit. Secondly, if conduit is used, ensure that all boxes and fittings are also rated for wet locations. Thirdly, consider using a ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, protected circuit to provide additional protection against electric shock. Seventhly, when selecting a wet location rated ceiling fan, look for a fan that is specifically labeled as suitable for wet locations. The fan should have a sealed motor, corrosion-resistant blades and housing, and a UL listing for wet locations. Eighthly, in some cases, it may be possible to modify the porch to create a damp location instead of a wet location. This could involve adding walls or screens to provide protection from direct exposure to weather. However, even in a damp location, it's still important to use appropriate wiring methods and equipment. Ninthly, it's always a good idea to provide homeowners with a written estimate for the cost of the necessary repairs and upgrades. This will help them understand the financial implications of not addressing the safety issues and make an informed decision. Tenthly, it's important to remember that electrical work should always be performed by a qualified and licensed electrician. This will ensure that the work is done safely and in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. The NEC provides a comprehensive set of guidelines for electrical installations, particularly in environments where moisture is a factor. To effectively convey the importance of adhering to these guidelines to homeowners, it is essential to break down the complexities of the code into understandable terms while emphasizing the potential safety hazards associated with non-compliance. Here is a detailed explanation that can be tailored for homeowners. Firstly, explaining wet versus damp locations. Start by clarifying the difference between wet and damp locations as defined by the NEC. A wet location is an area subject to saturation with water or other liquids, such as unprotected outdoor areas. A damp location is an area protected from direct exposure to weather but still subject to a moderate degree of moisture, like covered porches or carports. The critical distinction is the level of water exposure. Secondly, highlighting the dangers of using standard equipment. Emphasize that standard electrical equipment, including ceiling fans and wiring, is designed for dry, indoor locations. Using these items in wet or damp locations can lead to electrical shock, fire hazards, and equipment failure. Explain that moisture can cause corrosion and short circuits, which can be extremely dangerous. Thirdly, explaining the purpose of wet location ratings. Introduce the concept of wet location ratings for electrical equipment. Explain that these ratings mean the equipment has been specifically designed and tested to withstand exposure to moisture and water without posing a safety risk. Wet location rated ceiling fans, for example, have sealed motors, corrosion-resistant components, and special wiring to prevent water from entering and causing damage or electrical shock. Fourthly, detailing appropriate wiring methods. Discuss the approved wiring methods for wet and damp locations according to the NEC. Explain that standard non-metallic cable, or NMC, is not suitable for outdoor use because its outer jacket can degrade over time when exposed to moisture and sunlight. Instead, recommend using underground feeder, or UF cable, which is designed for direct burial and exposure to the elements, or running wires through conduits such as rigid metal conduit, or RMC, or liquid-type flexible metal conduit, or LFMC. Explain that conduit provides a physical barrier to protect the wires from moisture and damage. Fifthly, illustrating the consequences of non-compliance. Paint a clear picture of the potential consequences of ignoring the NEC guidelines. Explain that using the wrong equipment or wiring can lead to electrical failures, property damage, and serious injuries or even death. Additionally, point out that non-compliant installations can result in fines from electrical inspectors and invalidate homeowners' insurance policies. Sixthly, providing specific recommendations. Offer concrete solutions and recommendations for bringing the installation up to code. This could include replacing the standard ceiling fan with a wet location rated model, rewiring the circuit with UF cable or conduit, and ensuring that all connections and fittings are properly sealed and waterproofed. Provide a detailed cost estimate for the necessary works so the homeowner understands the financial commitment involved. Seventhly, using relatable analogies. Use relatable analogies to help homeowners understand the importance of electrical safety. For example, compare using a standard ceiling fan in a wet location to using a hairdryer in the bathtub. While it may seem harmless, the risk of electrical shock is very real and can have serious consequences. Eighthly, emphasizing the importance of professional installation. Stress the importance of hiring a qualified and licensed electrician to perform the work. Explain that electricians have the knowledge, skills, and experience to ensure that the installation is done safely and in compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. Caution against attempting to do the work themselves unless they have the necessary expertise. Ninthly, highlighting the benefits of compliance. Focus on the benefits of complying with the NEC guidelines. Explain that a safe and code-compliant electrical installation will not only protect their family and property from harm but also increase the value of their home and provide peace of mind. Tenthly, offering financing options. If the cost of the necessary repairs and upgrades is a concern, explore financing options that may be available to homeowners. This could include low-interest loans or energy efficiency rebates from local utility companies. By breaking down the technical jargon, emphasizing the safety risks, and providing concrete solutions, you can effectively communicate the importance of adhering to the NEC guidelines to homeowners and encourage them to take the necessary steps to ensure a safe and compliant electrical installation. In conclusion, educating homeowners about the NEC requirements for wet location installations is crucial for ensuring the safety and protecting their property. By using clear and simple language, providing specific recommendations, and emphasizing the importance of professional installation, you can help them understand the risks of non-compliance and make informed decisions about their electrical systems.